Hello and welcome, if you're still watching, after all the trigger warnings and stuff that we had to deal with yesterday, well, I mean in the previous video, to the Fair Maid of the West Part 2. So this is the second half of the second play of the Fair Maid of the West, or A Girl Worth Gold, by Thomas Heywood. I would do a summary of the play, but I've kind of already forgotten half of it because the other half was like last week or in previous sessions and stuff. And my brains are a bit leaky at the moment, and it's hot. That's my excuse. So reading this play with me because we have a lot of text to get through, are these wonderful people who will be reading Spencer. The love interest is
Sarah Blake, actor, writer, and director based in Germany.
Reading Clem, we have
Kyle DiRoberto, teacher, Tucson.
Reading Tota, a merchant, and the Duke of Ferrara, who doesn't get a name.
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm currently, I think, in London.
Yeah, I don't know where I am. Reading Captain Goodluck, and the epilogue of this play is
Lindsay Beecham, actor in Kirkcaldy, Scotland.
Reading Bashar Joffer. Also, in case you're wondering why I'm looking down, I'm looking at my phone, which has the list on it. Yeah, you didn't need to know that. Anyway, Bashar Joffer, messenger, and Duke of Mantua we have.
Hello, Dan, actor based in Montpellier, France.
Reading Ruffman, we have.
Hello. No, you have Emily Snyder, actor, playwright, all the things. Currently in Stratford upon Avon,
With a very cool
hopefully
clock as
still
well.
here later.
And reading the chorus, a chorus, which also turned up in the first part, which is kind of weird. Bandito, so basically captain of the certain bandits, Drawer, Lord, and Pietro. We have
Alan, falling part in Suffolk.
Same. I'm Eric Karoulla. I'm your host for today, doing all the chaos and Bess. And of course, we have the King. How could I forget the King and Florence? Sorry. Yes.
Hi, I'm Lynn. I am in the Northwestern United States.
Yeah, and you've been awake for less time than I have, and you've had less coffee than I have. So yeah,
Almost certainly. Yeah.
yeah. So we are beginning from Act 3, Scene 3. I will be reading Bess and pretty much everything else we have left over. So beginning from Act 3, Scene 3, before I forget what I'm doing. I've had too much coffee. Enter King Malisheg, Queen Tota, Joffer, and the headsman.
Produce your prisoner, Bashaw.
Mighty king, had you beheld your prowess and withal but seen his passions, you would then like me have pitied his disasters.
We know no pity for an injury of that high nature more than our revenge. We have vowed his death, and he shall therefore die. Go, bring him forth.
Spare me, my lord, but some few hours I shall.
The least delay is death.
Then know, my lord, he was my prisoner.
How? Was and is not?
I promise.
Not in jibes.
He jived to me by faith, but else at liberty.
I pray, unriddle us and teach us that which we desire to know. Where is the English prisoner?
I presumed, my lord, such noble valor could not be lodged alone without some other virtues, faith, and honor. Therefore, I gave him freedom to his ship only upon his promise to return. Now, if there be such nobleness in a Christian, which being a Moor, I have expressed to him, he will not see me perish.
Foolish Bashaw! To jest away thy head. You are all conspirators against our person, and you all shall die. Why canst thou think a stranger? Be remote both in country and religion, being embarked at sea and under sail, free from our bands, in the arms of his fair bride, his captain and his sailors all aboard. Sea, room, and wind at will, and will return. to expose all these to voluntary dangers for a bare verbal promise.
If he comes not, be this my honor, king, that though I bleed a more, a Christian thus far did exceed.
The hour is past. The Christian hath broke faith. Off with his head.
Enter Spencer at the last minute.
Is it possible? Can England, so far distant, harbor such noble virtues?
I assure you, sir, you come unto your death, and you have obtained much honor from me, and engrossed it all to your own fame. To have lived longer by me than any monument can last, to have lost my life for such a noble stranger, whose virtue even in this last act I appears. I wish this blood which now are friendly tears. You are come unto your death.
Why, 'twas my purpose, and by that death to make my honour shine. Great Mulisheg, cherish this noble Moor, whom all thy confines cannot parallel for virtue and true nobleness. Ere my ship should with such black dishonour bear me safe into my country by this Bashor's death, I would have bent my ordnance 'gainst her keel and sunk her in the harbour.
Thou hast slain 6 of our subjects.
Oh, had you seen but with what eminent valor.
Naught that's ill can be well done. Then, Bashaw, speak no more. His life is merely forfeit, and he shall pay for it.
I am proud, Fairs, that I now owe thee nothing but have in me ability to pay. If it be forfeit, take it. Lay all on me. I'll pay the debt, then set the Bashor free.
Besides misprizing all our gracious favors, to violate our laws, infringe our peace, disturb our watch by night, and now, perhaps having robbed us of much treasure, stolen to sea.
In that thou art not royal, Mulisheg. Of all thy gold and jewels lately given us, there's not a doit embarked. For, finding thee dishonourably kind, scorning thy gold, we left all behind.
Private men be lords of such brave spirits. How royal should their princes be?
Englishman, there's but one way for thee to save thy life from imminent death.
Well, propose it.
Instantly send to thy negro and surrender up thy captain and thy fair bride. Otherwise, by all holy rights of our great prophet, thou shalt not live an hour.
Alas, good king, I pity and despise thy tyranny. Not live an hour, and when my head is off, what canst thou do then? Call'st thou that revenge, to ease me of 1,000 turbulent griefs, and throw my soul in glory for my honour? Why, thou strivest to make me happy, but for her. Wert thou the king of all the kings on earth, could thou lay all their sceptres, robes, and crowns here at my feet, and hadst power to install me emperor of the universal empery, rather than yield my basest shipboy up to become thy slave, much less betray my bride to thee and to thy brutish lust. No, King Fez, I die 100,000 deaths first.
I'll try your patience. Off with his head.
Enter Bess, Goodlack, and Ruffman. Here's more work. Stay.
What make you here? You wrong me above injury.
If you love blood that rivers spare, and for him take a flood, be but so gracious as save him alone. In great King, see, I bring thee 3 for 1. Spare him, thou shalt have more, the lives of all my train. What sayest thou to it? And with their lives my ship and all to boot.
I could be angry with you above measure. In your 4 deaths I die that had before tasted but one.
Captain, art thou there? How are these fair? Thou shalt be sure to pay for it.
'Tis my least care. What's done is mine, I here confess it. Then seize my life in ransom of the rest.
Lieutenant, you are a base villain. What groom betrayed you to our sheets?
Please keep your tongue. I did you no dishonor.
Whom did you bring to our free embraces?
'Twas the king. Conceal what's past.
How ere my mind? Then yet my body's chaste.
Make use on it.
Dismiss, great king, these to their ship again. My life is solely forfeit.
Hmm.
Take but that, I shall report thee merciful.
It were no justice, king, to forfeit his and to spare mine. I am as deep as he, since what my Spencer did was all for me.
Great king, if any faltered, then 'twas I. I led them on, and therefore first should die.
I am as deep as any.
Oh, had my head excused all these, I had been nobly dead.
Why pause you, king? Is it by our noble virtues that you have lost the use of speech? Or can you think that Spencer dead, you might inherit me? No, first with Roman Portia I did fire, or with Lucretia character thy lust twixt these two breasts. Stood I engaged to death, I'd scorn for life to bend the servile knee. But 'tis for thee, my Spencer. What was his fault? 'Twas but to save his own and rescue his dear bride from adulterate sheets. And must he die for this?
Shall lust in me have chief prominence and virtuous deeds, for which in Fez I have been long renowned, be quite excised? Shall Christians have the honor to be sole heirs of goodness, and we Moors barbarous and bloody? Captain, resolve me, what common courtesan didst thou convey into our royal bed?
I can excuse him. Pardon me, great king. I, having private notice of your plots, wrought him unto my purpose, and 'twas I lodged in your arms that night.
These English are in all things honorable, nor can we tax their ways in anything, unless we blame their virtues. Enough, maid. We give thee once more back unto thy husband, whom likewise freely we receive to grace, and as amends for our pretended wrongs, with her we'll tender such an ample dower as shall renown our bounty. But we fear we cannot recompense the injurious loss of your last night's expectations.
'Tis full amends, where but the least part of your grace extends.
Captain, we prize thy virtues to thy friends, thy faith to us, and zeal unto our queen. And Pasha, for thy nobleness to a gentleman of such approved valor and renown, we here create thee viceroy of Argiers, and do esteem thee next our queen in grace. Ye have quenched in me all lust, by which shall grow virtues which Fez and all the world shall know.
We shall report your bounties, and your royalties shall fly through all parts of Christendom.
Whilst best has gold, which is the meed of bays, shall make our English poets tune thy praise. And now, my Spencer, after all our troubles, crosses, and threatenings of the sea's rough brow, I ne'er could say thou wert mine own till now.
Call this your harbor and your haven of joy, for so we'll strive to make it, noble strangers. Those virtues you have taught us by your deeds, we futurely will strive to imitate. And for the wrongs done to the hoped delights of your last night's divorce, double the magazine with which our largesse should have swelled your ship. A golden girl thou art called, and, wench, be bold, thy lading back shall be with pearl and gold.
And they exit. I don't know if I should ask you for first impressions after yesterday, or just run into the next scene to end the act. But I mean, we can. Yeah, Alan. Sorry.
There's a hell of a screeching U-turn between how the previous scene finished and this one. It doesn't have much consistency at all, this piece.
Lynn, sorry.
Yeah, there seems to be quite a bit of people, particularly Spencer and Beth, just talking themselves out of trouble. Like they just convince the people who want to kill them, no, you don't want to kill us.
Well, it's very much I'm Spartacus, and if you kill him, you'll have to kill me, and that kind of thing. So, yeah. Sorry, Sarah, you had a thought. Or
No, I was literally going to say what you just said. It's like I think that the thing that creates the U-turn is the Spartacus. So I mean, it's okay. They talk themselves out of it, but it's action more than talk, because it's the fact that all of them are prepared to die. I think that's the thing that impresses the king. But even so, this king, it's like he thinks this, then he thinks that, and I mean, I'm going back to the end of the other play as well, and then he's this way and then he's that way, and it's like, just get the hell out of there, because anyone who is this inconsistent, like, seriously, they have psychotic issues, and you need to stay a long way away from them. Get back on your ship and leave now.
Helen.
Yeah, the Queen gets herself out of a hole quite neatly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she manages to impute much more noble motives for what were actually base motives.
Yeah, this is true, and sort of just I don't know how much we should. Yeah, sorry, my brain is just sort of skimming ahead. Dan is twitching. Are you? Do you have thoughts, or is that just sort of pausing for rest? Okay, we should move on to finish the act, and then we'll see. Act 3, Scene 4. Enter the chorus.
Madge and Bess and Spencer under sail, but the intelligence of their great wealth being bruited amongst the merchants comes to the ears of a French pirate, who, with 2 ships well rigged, waylays them in their voyage. Long they fought, and many slain on both sides, but the Frenchmen, proud of their hopeful conquest, boarding twice, are twice blown up, which adds courage to the English, but to the Frenchmen fear. Just as they buckled, Spencer and Goodlack, with 2 proof targets armed, into the French ship leap, and on the hatches there make a bloody slaughter. But at that instant the billows swelled, the winds grew high and loud, and as the soul and body used to part, with no less force these lovers are divided. He wafts to her, and she makes signs to him. He calls, she replies. They both go hoarse, with shrieking out their last farewell. Now she swoons and sinks into the arms of Ruffman. Spencer upon a chest gets hold and safe arrives in the Marquis of Ferrara's country. The like adventure chanced Goodlack. On a mast he pierces Italy, where these 2 dukes were then at odds. Spencer is chosen Ferrara's champion. Mantua makes Goodlack his. What happened then? If you desire to know. To cut off words, we'll act it in dumb show.
Clearly they had the budget for this, because there is a dumb show that is not described.
The dukes by them atoned, they graced and preferred to take their next way towards Florence. What of Bess, Ruffman, and Clem becomes must next succeed. The seas to them like cruel proves, and wrecks their negro on the coast of Florence, where they wander up and down amongst the bandits. More of their fortunes we will next pursue, in which we mean to be as brief as true.
Exit the chorus, and thus ends Act 3. Sarah is shaking her head and has thoughts.
That has been my favorite thing in this play so far. Like, I really enjoyed that chorus. I think you could do something amazing with that on stage. Like, I am always about the staging of these plays. Like, that's the perspective that I'm coming from, and that is something that you could have immense fun with and create immense joy with in your audience, I think, because it's, on the one hand, it's kind of ridiculous, but it's ridiculous in the most brilliant way. And the pictures that it paints and the things you could be, I mean, even before you get to the actual bit where it says dumb show, the things you could be doing in the background to create the sort of a parody of a really epic pirate battle. I just think that there is a lot of potential there.
Emily, then Alan.
Actually, a bit of a question. So hopefully I'm bringing to today's session the guy that wandered out to the loo and then came back halfway through and is going, what's going on? I thought these people weren't friends. Oh, they're friends now. Okay. So is this the first time we've had a chorus like this that just sort of like skips us through It is. No, it's not.
Second time.
It's the second time.
In the first part, in the first part that is of as in the Fair Maid of the West part 1.
Okay.
We had a chorus in, I think it was Act 3, Act 2, Scene 3, Scene 7 or something, or Act 4, Scene 7, something like that. It was really late in the play. But basically he went, I cannot represent this on, we don't have the budget for this, therefore you get a sort of chorus for this bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, what's hitting me though, and hearing a little bit about just how there have been so many shenanigans, I can't help but think, for example, of Candide, or of any of these sort of plays that is, you go to next location, thing happens. Similarly, as I'm a playwright, it just feels so much like the people who are writing at 2 a.m. and going, just gotta do plot, gotta do plot, we're gonna change it, I don't know, it's what they're doing next. And, and the actors getting the sides that morning and just being like, okay, here we go. And again, it's kind of cool because I feel like I have a sort of, person paying, the least amount of money to come in and wander and be entertained for a while. In some way, there's a sense of, I don't care so long as plot is happening, sort of feeling that I'm getting as this curious audience member right now. But yeah, it's very melodramatic. It's very just next location, next episode, next episode, next episode. Whereas when I saw it, in the first bit, I thought it was going to be much more tidy. So interesting.
Well, to be fair, up to this point, we've been in one location in terms of like sort of the Kingdom of Fez. I think it's like meant to be in Morocco, somewhere there, at least in sort of context-wise. And people have been trying to sleep with other people. People have been prisoners of other people and escaped and that kind of thing. Okay, that's a very bad summary. But
right, but that's still episode, which frankly was in that first part of, we do this thing, it's resolved a scene later. We do a thing, it's resolved a scene later, or within that scene. So you get moved from movement to movement to movement to movement rather than a through line.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the
so
through line here being adventure.
Yeah, but like, do we know if these plays did well? Because I could absolutely see, it's kind of lovely. I don't really need to know what came before. I can come in, watch 2 scenes, get an adventure, leave.
Well, I don't know about the popularity in terms of like sort of like sales and stuff, but I do know that this might have been written 20 years later after the first part of the Fair Maid of the West part 1. And in the printing, it does say printing is in like, top of the thing where it says printed by whatever. It does say
so what we have is a Goethe Faust part 1 and 2 here, essentially, just with a lot more swashbuckling. Okay, well, maybe not, maybe about as much swashbuckling.
Sorry, Alan, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I mean, the temptation to do that chorus piece in the style of Trevor McDonald, and finally, is something that someone might want to exploit at some point.
Yeah. Any other thoughts before we move on? Yeah. Okay. Well, since we're moving to a different location / whatever episode, so to speak, Act 4, Scene 1, enter Bess, Ruffman, and Clem. All is lost. And Ruffman, we are waiting on you.
I went and made a note for myself. Okay, would you cue me in again, please, Bess?
All is lost.
Save these ourselves.
For my part, I had not so much left as a clean shirt.
And Spencer too. Had the seas left me him, I should have thought them kind, but in his fate, all wishes, fortunes, hopes of better days expire.
Spencer may live.
Aye, that he may, if it be in a seawater green suit, as I was, among the haddocks.
How many bitter plunges have I passed ere I could win my Spencer, who no sooner married, but quite divorced, possessed for some few days, then rent asunder, as soon a widow as I was a bride. This day the mistress of many thousands and a beggar now, not worth the clothes I wear.
At the lowest ebb, the tides still flow. Besides, being on the ground, lower we cannot fall.
Yes, into the ground, the grave.
Would I were there. Till then I never shall have true rest. I fain would know what greater misery heaven can inflict. I have not yet endured. If there be such, I dare it. Let it come.
And indeed, enter captain of bandities or bandits and others. Banditis, sorry.
Seize and surprise the prisoners. I thou up mine.
Villain, hands off! Knowest thou whom thou offendest?
Bind her fast and after captive him.
I will rather die. Oh, then suffer her sustain least injury.
Ruffman beaten off, Clem exits. What's thy purpose?
In all my travels and my quest of blood, I ne'er encountered such a beauteous prize. Heavens! I thought you would accept his thanks that trades in deeds of hell. I would acknowledge myself in debt to you.
What's thy intent, bold villain, that thou makest this preparation?
I intend to ravish thee.
Oh, goodness, pardon me, and you, blessed heavens, whom I too boldly challenged for a misery beyond my Spencer's loss. What rape intended? I had not thought there had been such a mischief devised for wretched woman. Ravish me, 'tis beyond shipwreck, poverty, or death. 'Tis a word invented first in hell, and by the devils first spewed upon earth, and could not have invented to have given such letters sound.
I trifle hours too long, and now to my black purpose. Envious day, gaze with thy open eyes on this night's work, for thus the prologue to my lust begins.
Help! Murder! Rape! Murder!
I'll stop your mouth from bawling.
Enter the Duke of Florence and the train and a merchant.
This way the cry came, rescue for the lady. Hold thy desperate fury and arm thyself for my encounter.
Hell prevented?
And
Unbind that beauteous lady and pursue that ruffian. He that can bring his head shall have 1,000 crowns purposed for his reward. He shall be captain of those bloody thieves that haunt our mountains, and our dear subjects hath oft made outrage. Go, see this proclaimed.
Ere I the happy washes of my soul, my orisons to heaven, or make free tender of a most bounden duty, grace my misery, to let me know unto what worthy person, of what degree or state I owe the service of a most wretched life. Lest in my ignorance I prove a heretic to all good manners, and harshly so offend. Best news.
Fairest of thy sex, I need not question thine, because I read nobleness in thy forehead. But to resolve thee, no, I am styled the Duke of Florence, and of this country prince.
Then from my knees I fall flat on my face and bound obeisance.
Rise, that earth's too base for such pure lips to kiss. They should join with the princes, as at first made for such use. Nay, we will have it so.
That lady, if my memory be faithful unto my judgment, I should have seen ere now. But where, what place, or in what country now, I cannot call to mind.
Where were you bred?
In England, royal sir.
In England.
By what strange adventure then happened you on these coasts?
By shipwreck.
Then churlish were the waves to expose you to such danger. Whence disembarked you last?
From Barbary.
From Barbary. Our merchant. You came lately thence.
'Tis she, I now remember her. She did me a great courtesy, and I am proud. Fortune, however enemy to her, has given me opportunity to make a just requital.
What occasion, fair lady, being of such state and beauty, drew you from your own country to expose so long travel?
Mighty sovereign, pardon my interruption. If I make bold to put your grace in mind of an English virgin so highly graced by mighty Mullisheg?
Were a legend worthy to be written gold, whose strangeness seemed at first to exceed belief. And had not thy approved honesty commanded our attention, we should have doubted that thou therein hadst much hyperbolized.
What would your grace give to see that miracle of constancy? She who relieved so many Christian captives, redeemed so many of the merchants' goods, begged of the king so many forfeitures, kept from the galleys some, and some from slaughter. She whom the king of Fez never denied, but she denied him love, whose chastity conquered his lust, and, maugre his incontinence, made him admire her virtues.
The report strikes us with wonder and amazement too, but to behold the creature were a project worthy of a theatre of emperors, nay, gods themselves to be spectators.
Behold that wonder! Lady, know you me?
Not I can assure you, sir.
I'll give you instance then. I was that Florentine who, being at Fez for a strange outrage there, 6 of my men were to the galleys doomed, but at your intercession to the king freely released, for which in this dejection I pray accept these 1,000 crowns to raise your ruined fortunes.
You are grateful, sir, beyond my merit.
I cannot blame great Fez to become enamored on so fair a creature. You had a friend much graced by that same Moor, whom our merchant told us you were espoused to in the court of Fez. Where's he?
I cannot speak it without tears.
Why is he dead?
I cannot say he lives.
How were you severed?
It asks sad relation.
We'll find a fitter time to hear it. But now, augment your griefs no farther. On what coast, pray, were you shipwrecked?
Upon these neighboring shores where all the wealth I had from Barbary is perished in the sea. I that this morn commanded 500,000, have nothing now but this good merchant's bounty.
You are richer in our high favor than all royalty Fez could have crowned your peerless beauty with. He gave you gold, but we, your almost forfeit chastity.
A gift above the wealth of Barbary.
Conduct this lady to the city straight, and bear this our signet to our treasurer. Command for her 10,000 crowns immediately. Next to our wardrobe, and what choice of habit best likes her, 'tis her own. Only for all this grace deign, beauteous lady, that I may call you servant.
Pardon me, sir, you're a prince, and I'm here your vassal.
Merchant, as you respect our favor, see this done.
What must my next fall be? I that this morning was rich in wealth and servants, and ere noon commanded neither, next doomed to death, nor death, not death alone, but death with infamy. But what's all this unto my Spencer's loss?
You to the city, we'll pursue the chase. Madam, be comforted. We'll send or see you. All your favorites are not extinct in shipwreck. The land affords you better, if you'll be swayed by us. As first you find us, we'll still be the same. Oft have I chased, ne'er found so fair a game.
And the exit, because that's not shady at all, sort of. Yeah. Any thoughts before we, yeah.
A life crowded with incident.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Emily is looking, well, not shocked, but like sort of, yeah. Yeah. But it's kind of like she's been like, if as yesterday Sarah was going on about how, this is not the best we saw in the first play, first part. And there's a part of me going, yeah, where's the woman who was fighting like on ships and like standing first in line for the bullets and stuff? And yeah, Emily, go forth, say something.
Well, regarding that, so if you think of Aristotle's Poetics, right? He noticed particularly you've got plot, character, theme, or thought. dialogue, music, which I have feelings about, and spectacle. And I'm finding, because people often say, oh, well, plot and character are the same thing. This is a perfect example of a very plot forward piece, but not character forward. And that's why the character is constantly changing to serve the plot. I mean, so that's kind of what's occurring here is he's writing a plot forward piece, not sort of plot character with theme underneath, which is what we sort of think of as classical Western theater. So I mean, there's a reason why things keep changing, and I think that's also the reason why, like, every half a page it was, aha, here are new people, aha, here are new people, aha, I'm here and I have a course of action that I'm going to do with you, main character, and now I'm done. And so I think that's the way to sort of look at this, and I think it's
definitely.
interesting because it shows that plot, character, and theme don't have to be bound up together.
Yeah, true. But also there's a part of me going, well, kick him in the beep. Yeah. But obviously that doesn't always work. But I mean, yeah. Anyway.
Well, but that's why, like, there's
yeah.
no reason for Clem to leave. In fact, if Clem is actually a loyal servant to Bess, then it's odd for Clem to just go. But because the plot requires it, Clem leaves. So I don't know if you guys watch Riverdale. I don't, but I watch a lot of videos about Riverdale. And every episode, something is reversed about a character because they're just get out the plot, get out the plot, get out the plot.
Yeah. Speaking of Clem, Clem appeareth in the next scene. Would you like to move on then? Okay, Act 4, Scene 2. Enter Clem alone, which we're running into the next scene because they're two short scenes. So yeah.
Where are my bashes now? Let me see. What shall I do? I have left my mistress. Where shall I have my wages? She's peppered by this. But if the captain of the bandits had but that grace and honor that I had when I was in Barbary, he would have been so lusty. She 'scaped drowning, which is the way of all fish, and by this gone the way of all flesh. My lieutenant, he's sure cut to pieces among the bandits, and so I had been, had not my baker's legs stepped a little aside. My noble captain and Spencer, they are either drowned in the tempest or murdered by the pirates, and none is left alive but I, Clem, poor Clem. But, poor Clem, how wilt thou do now? What trick have you to satisfy Colin? Here is a strange country. It is not now with me as when Andrea lived. Now I bethink me, I have a trade, and that, they say, will stick by a man when his friends fail him. The city is hard by, and I'll see, and I can be entertained to my old trade of drawing wine. If it be but an underskinker, I care not. Better to do so than, like a prodigal, feed upon husks and acorns. Well, if I chance to lead my life under some happy sign, to my countrymen still I'll fill the best wine.
Clem exits. Act 4, Scene 3. Enter Ruffman, bleeding.
Wounded, but 'scaped with life. But Bess is lost. That's it, that grieves me inward. Ravished, perhaps, and murdered. Oh, if Spencer and Goodlack survive, how would they blame my cowardice? A thread spun may be entwined, but things in nature done, undone can never be. She's lost. They are perished. They are happy in their deaths, and I surviving, left to earth most miserable, no means to raise myself. I met a pursuivant even now, proclaiming to the man who could bring the head of the bandites captain, for his reward 1,000 crowns, if not for gain of gold, yet for he injured Bess. That shall be my next task. What though I die? Be this my comfort, that it chanced me well to perish by his hand, by whom she fell.
And exit Ruffman with flourish, I imagine, or some other sort of look at me, I'm Superman or something from there. I don't know. I just love Ruffman as a character because he's so cowardly. He's like the cowardly lion kind of in this, though not. I don't know if you have any thoughts or you want to move on, because those were two very short scenes that are kind of fillers scenes, I think. Dan, I think, has something to say, or no?
Just more thinking, reflecting on it. With the two back-to-back scenes of monologues, I don't think it's I mean, obviously they can be doing, it could be the passage of time and costume change and whatnot can be covering, but this is also starting to highlight to me, which probably everybody's already realized this, but I'm just jumping in today, that this to me seems to be an actor showcase, this entire play. And swashbuckling comedy, not unlike Heywood, where you actually have a lot of room with these characters to play a lot of different emotions, which I really like about Heywood. So, you know, when we've been talking about, or when people have been talking about, oh, well, they've just flipped all of a sudden into this and that, this seems like a golden opportunity to me, in fact, to play different, very, very many facets of a character. And I think I do agree with Emily there that, yeah, it's about the plot, but it's about, I guess, the story of Bess and Spencer. And everyone else is kind of just along for the ride. And I think we're supposed to be having fun with all of this. So not sure if that's very, I mean, everyone's probably brought this up already or thought this, but I'm just coming to this now.
Yeah, it's basically the love story of Bess and Spencer. And as soon as Bess gets Spencer back, something else happens that divides them, like to serve the play, of course, because, you know, there would be no play without conflict or drama, or some other reason for them to keep going. So her goal is to be with him, and his goal is to be with her. But there are also other things in life, like honor and, in her case, chastity and stuff. So yeah, that's I don't know if that's like the other characters might be peripheral and stuff, but they're also part of the comedy of the whole comedy of the whole thing. Also, I just love Ruffman going, bring it to me, Fate, and then he runs off or gets beaten up. Yeah, Emily.
Just briefly though, I was also, as I think you were saying there, Dan, shocked that it was like, oh, he's sincere, like he's kind of come a long way. This is beautiful language. So I agree, as much as it's plot, there are some lovely actor moments. They've written some lovely Best speeches. Yeah, and people have been pointing out lovely lines in here, so.
Yeah, we have some, well, I mean, Heywood is good at doing both humor and tragedy, as we've seen before. So he is quite a good, I mean, he can produce good stuff. On that note, we should probably move on to discover more stuff. So Act 4, Scene 4. Enter the Duke of Florence and a merchant.
Our merchant, have you done to the English lady as we commanded? Did she take the gold?
After many compliments, circumstances, modest refusals, and sometimes with repulse, I forced on her your bounty. Had you seen what a bewitching art she strived to use betwixt denial and disdain, contempt and thankfulness, you would have said that out of mere scorn to accept your gift, she expressed such gratitude as would demand a double donative.
And it has done it. It shall be doubled straight, arising thence unto an infinite, if she'll but grant us love. How for her habit?
With an enforced will, willful constraint, and a mere kind of glad necessity, she put it on, but to lament the death of her lost husband.
Why, is he lost?
By all conjectures, never to be found.
The less her hope is to recover him, the more our hope remains to conquer her. Bear her from us this jewel, and withal provide a banquet. Bid her leave all morning. This night in person will visit her.
I shall.
Withal more gold, and if thou canst, by way of conference, get from her how she stands affected towards us. It shall not be the farthest way about to thy preferment and our special favor.
The two bold dukes of Mantua and Ferrara, after many bloody garboils, have entered league, and within these 2 days mean to visit Florence to meet your court, a witness of their late concluded amity.
We'll receive them as princes that in this world honor us.
These letters will speak farther.
Bear them straight unto our secretary, and withal give order that all our court may shine in gold and pearl. They never could have come in happier season than when the great and high magnificence without suspect we would have shown to her. Will be accounted honor done to them. In fate's despite, we'll not lose the honor of this night.
And they exit. Yes. I'm just wondering, we should probably move on or not. Any thoughts? No thoughts. Okay. Act 4, Scene 5. Enter Spencer and Goodlack.
Ferrara was exceeding bountiful.
So was the Duke of Mantua. Had we stayed within their confines, we might in till death have lived in their high favour.
Oh, but Captain, what would their dukedoms gain me without Bess? Or all the world to enjoy it without her? Each passage of content or pleasing fortune, when I record she has no part in it, seems rather as an augmentation of a more great disease.
This be your comfort, that by this she's best part of her way for England, whither she is richly bound. Then, where she is most hopeless of this your safety, with your survival, to receive us gladly with an abundant treasure.
But for that, I had sunk. Ere this, beneath the weight of war, and shows an obscure death before the glory of a renowned soldier. But we are now as far as Florence onward of our way. Were it best that we made tender of our service to the Grand Duke?
'Tis the greatest benefits of all our travels to see foreign courts and to discourse their fashions. Let us by no means neglect that duty.
Where were we best to lodge?
Hard by is a tavern. Let's first drink there, and after make inquiry who's the best host for strangers.
Come ho! Where be these drawers?
Enter a drawer.
Gentlemen, I draw none myself, but I'll send some.
Enter Clem with wine.
Welcome, gentlemen. Score a quart?
Huh?
How?
No, I am an ass, a very animal. It cannot be.
Why dost thou bear the wine back? The slave thinks belike we have no money.
What, dost thou think us to be such cashiered soldiers that we have no cash? Tush, it cannot be he.
How should he come here? Set down the wine.
I will, sir. Score a quart of tricks, mere phantasms. Shall I draw wine to shadows? So I might run over the score and find no substance to pay for it.
Left we not him a shipboard on his voyage towards England with my...
With Bess, true. Sirrah, set down the wine.
Some Italian mountebanks, upon my life, mere juggling.
Upon my life, 'tis Clem.
Captain Master Spencer?
Clem?
I am Clem.
And I am Spencer.
And I Goodlack, but cannot think thee Clem.
Yes, I am Clem, a foy, a basha, a Barbary, who from a courtier of Fez am turned a drawer in Florence. But let me clear my eyes better. Now I think you to be the same whose throats the pirates would have cut and have spoiled your drinkings.
Oh, tell us, and be brief in thy relation. What happened to you after the sudden tempest severed our ships? Or what's become of Bess?
Where did our Negro touch?
I'll give you a touch. Take it as you will. The Negro and all that was in her was wrecked on the coast of Florence. She and all the wealth that was in her, all drowned in the bottom of the sea.
No matter for the riches. Where's she, worth more than ship or goods?
Where's Ruthven? For thou, we see, art safe.
Nay, speak. Where's Bess? How my heart quails within me.
She, Ruthven, and I were all cast ashore safe, like so many drowned rats, where we were no sooner landed but were set upon by the bandits, where she was bound to a tree and ready to be ravished by the captain of the outlaws.
Oh, worse than shipwreck could be.
I see Bowman half cut in pieces, with rescuing her, but whether the other half be alive or no, I cannot tell. For my own part, I made shift for one, my heels doing me better service than my hands, and coming to the city, having no other means to live by, got me to my old trade to draw wine, where I have the best wine in Florence for you gentlemen.
Ravished?
And Ruthven slain.
Oh, hard news! It frets all my blood and strikes me stiff with horror and amazement.
Strikes me into a marble statue, for with such I have like sense and feeling.
Tell me, Captain, wilt thou give me leave at length to despair and kill myself? I will disclaim all farther friendship with thee, if thou persuades me live. Ravished!
Perhaps attempted but prevented. Will you, before you know the utmost certainty, destroy yourself?
What is this world? What's man? Are we created out of flint or iron that we are made to bear this?
Comfort, sir.
Your only way is to drink wine. If you be in grief, for that's the only way, the old proverb says, to comfort the heart.
Hark where we lie. And I prithee, Clem, let's hear from thee, but now leave us.
I will make bold inquiry you out. Oh, I will make bold to inquire you out. And if you want money, as many travelers may, as long as I have either credit, wages, or any coin in the world, you shall not want, as I am a true eunuch.
Exit Clem and enter Florence, the Duke of Florence, ushering Bess and the train.
Let's stand aside and suffer these gallants pass, that with their state take a whole street before them.
Or coach, stay, we'll back some half hour hence. Only conduct this lady to her lodging. Huh, started you, sweet? Whence fetched you that sigh? Our train lead on. We have other business now to think upon.
They exit, and in the meantime, Bess casts a jewel.
Sure, this was some great lady.
But observed you not this jewel that she casts me? 'Tis a rich one.
Believe me, whether you're wearing.
What might she be to whom I am thus bound? I'm here a stranger. Never till this day beheld I Florence, nor acquaintance, friend, especially of ladies.
By their train. The man that did support her by the arm was of some special note, and she a lady nobly descended. Why should she throw you this, being a mere stranger?
There's some mystery in it. If we could find the depth on't, sure there is.
Perhaps some newly fallen in love with you, now at first sight, and hurled that as a favour.
Yet neither of us had the wit or sense to inquire her name. I'll wear it openly, and see if any will challenge it the way to know her best.
And I would so.
A truce a while with sorrow for my Bess, till I find the event.
And at best leisure tender our service to the Duke, whom fame reports to be a bounteous prince and liberal to all strangers.
'Tis decreed. But howsoever his favours he impart, my Bess's loss will still sit near my heart.
And they exit. This is totally not like that scene where they kind of met on the ship, but didn't meet in the first part at all. Lynn has thoughts.
No, not yeah. I guess that scene was really popular, or they had fun writing it, or something. It's like, let's just do that all over again, where they see each other and don't quite recognize each other. Yeah, because she's wearing a nice dress, so posh frock is the ultimate disguise, I guess.
Yeah. Helen.
Yeah, I think Italian ladies in public went masked.
Oh, there's that. There is that.
Explains it. That explains it.
It's just a thought.
And any other thoughts? I mean, since we're here.
Alan's very vulgar, isn't he? He suggests that Spencer didn't recognize her with her clothes on.
To be fair, she was wearing trousers for most of the first play. Any other thoughts about this scene or what we've done so far? And well, Act 4, Scene 6 has some weird speech attributions. That's what I meant. Which is, I think there's a part that Helen mentioned before we started recording, where Ferrara speaks twice, which might not be in this scene.
And I believe that the second one, when that happens, is Mantua, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, or the other way around, because an eye for him, well met, renowned Englishman here in the court of Florence. Is that Ferrara or Florence? One of those is Mantua, but it's unclear which.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Will anyone notice? Is the question I have to ask next. Sorry.
That is a good question, but I have no idea. We should read it and see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah. So Act 4, Scene 6. And flourish. Enter Florence, Mantua, Ferrara, and a merchant.
This honor you have done me, worthy princes, in leaving your courts to visit me, we reckon as a trophy of your loves, and shall remain a future monument of a more firm and perfect amity.
To you, as the greatest, most honored, and most esteemed Prince of Italy, after a tedious opposition and much effuse of blood, this prince and I, late reconciled, make a most happy tender of our united league.
Selecting you a royal witness of this union, which to express we come to feast with you, to sport and revel, and in full largesse to spend our royal bounty through your court.
What neither letters nor ambassadors, soliciting by factions or by friends, heaven's hand hath done by your more calmer temper.
All resistors, quarrels, and ripping up of injuries are smothered in the ashes of our wrath, whose fire is now extinct.
Which whoso kindles, let him be held a new Herostratus, who was so hated throughout Ephesus. They held it death to name him.
Nobly spoke. And now, Confederate princes, you shall find by our enrichment how we esteem your friendship. Speak, have we no ladies here to entertain these princes?
Enter Bess.
Methinks I spy one beauty in this place, with all the sights that I have seen before. I think, survey the spacious world abroad, you scarce can find her equal.
Had not wonder and deep amazement curbed my speech in, I had forestalled this prince in approbation of her compelous beauty.
Taste her, princes. This surfeits me and adds unto my love, that they should thus admire her.
Beauteous lady, it is not my least honor to be first in this most wished solicit.
I stand a statue and cannot move but by another's will, and as I am commanded.
I should have wrestled for priority, but that I hold it as a blessing to take off that kiss which he so late laid on.
Now tell me, princes, how do you like my judgment in the choice of a fair mistress?
You shall choose for me.
More happy in this beauty I account you than in your richest treasure.
Were it not clouded o'er with such a melancholy sadness, I'd not change it for the wealth of Italy. Sweet, cheer this brow whereon no frown can sit, but it would ill become you.
Sir, I bleed.
Huh, bleed? I would not have a sad and ominous fate hang o'er thee for a million. Perhaps 'tis custom with you?
I have observed, even from my childhood, never fell from hence one crimson drop, but either my greatest enemy or my dearest friend was near.
Why, we are here, fixed to thy side, thy dearest friend on earth. If that be all, fear nothing.
Pardon, sir, both modesty and manners plead for me, and I must needs retire.
Our train attend her. Let her have all observance. By my royalty, I would not have her taste the least disaster for more than we can promise.
Exit Bess.
You have only showed us a rich jewel, sir, and put it in a casket.
Of what country, fortune, or birth does she proclaim herself? For by her garb and language, we may guess she was not bred in Florence.
See to, princes, and I'll tell you a strange project.
Enter Spencer and Goodluck.
I have walked the streets, but found not any that will make the challenge of this duel. Captain, now we'll try the court.
Beware of these Italians. They are by nature jealous and revengeful, not sparing the most basest opportunity that may procure your danger.
Innocence is bold and cannot fear. But see, the Duke will tender him the solemnest reverence of travellers and strangers. Peace, prosperity, and all good fates attend your royalty.
Behold, we are two poor English gentlemen, whom travel hath enforced through your dukedom, as next way to our country, prostrate you our lives and service. 'Tis not for reward or hope of gain we make this tender to you, but our free loves.
That which so freely comes, how can we scorn? What are you, gentlemen?
I'll speak for this.
And I for him. Well met, renowned Englishman, here in the court of Florence. This was he, great Duke, whom fame hath for his valor blazoned, not only through Mantua, but through the spacious bounds of Italy, where 'twas shown. I think that's Mantua.
Yeah.
No, the
agree.
previous
vice
one
versa.
is Mantua.
Yeah.
I'm wrong. Dan, do you want to take the previous speech?
So, and I for him, you mean?
Oh no, God, it can't be. It's all completely mucked up because that would mean.
Yeah, so it's probably I'll speak for this and I for
Oh.
him, and then for the hath fame been so injurious to thy merits. It's
So
probably
that would be me
Mantua.
then.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Okay.
Actually, so
Yeah.
Helen was right.
No.
Okay.
I'm
Hath fame been
right.
so injurious to thy merit that this great court is not already filled with rumor of their matchless chivalry?
If these be they, as by their outward semblance they promise not much less, fame hath been harbinger to speak their praise beforehand. Noble gentlemen, you have much graced our court. We thank you for it. And though no way according to your merit, still we strive to cherish such brave spirits.
The acceptance of our smallest service, sir, is bounty above gold. We're poor gentlemen, and though we cannot, gladly would deserve.
'Has pleased these princes to bestow on us too great a character, and gild our praises far above our deserts.
That's but your modesty, English gentlemen. Let fame speak for you.
Gentlemen of England, we pardon you all duty. We accept you as our friends and our companions. Such you are, and such we do esteem you.
Mighty prince, such boldness wants excuse.
Come, we'll have it so. Amazement, aye, can it be? Sure, 'tis the self-same jewel I gave the English lady. More I view it, more it confirms my knowledge. Now is no time to question it. Once more, renowned Englishmen, welcome to us and to these princes.
Enter Ruffman, possibly with a head in a bag. I don't know. Maybe.
Can any man show me the great Duke of Florence?
Behold the prince.
Deign then, renowned Duke, to cast thy eyes upon a poor, dejected gentleman, whom fortune hath dejected even to nothing. I have nor meat nor money, these rags are all my riches. Only necessity compels me to claim a debt owing by you.
By us, let's know the sum and how the debt accrues.
You have proclaimed to him could bring the head of the banditt's captain, for his reward 1,000 crowns. Now I, being a gentleman, a traveller, and in want, made this my way to raise my ruined hope. I singled him, fought with him hand to hand, and from his bloody shoulders lopped his head.
Boldly and bravely done. Whate'er thou be, thou shalt receive it from our treasury.
You show yourself, as fame reports you, a bounteous prince, and liberal to all strangers.
From what country do you claim your birth?
From England, royal sir.
These bold Englishmen, I think, are all composed of spirit and fire. The element of earth has no part in them.
If, as you say, from England, we retain some of your countrymen. Know you these gentlemen?
Let me no longer live in ecstasy. This wonder will confound me, noble friends. Bootless it were to ask you why, because I find you here. Illustrious Duke, you owe me nothing now. To show me these, it is reward beyond what you have proclaimed. The rest I'll pardon.
What these are, we know, and what thou art, we need not question much. That head, though mute, can speak it. Princes, once more receive our royal welcome. But oh, the jewel. But that's at leisure. Now we cannot stay. Our train, lead on.
And the Duke's exit with a flourish.
Oh, that we three so happily should meet and want the fourth.
I left her in the hands of rape and murder, whence, except some deity, 'twas not in the power of man to rescue her. However, a good office I have done her, which even in death her soul will thank me for, revenged her on that villain.
It hath expressed the nobleness of thy spirit, for it we still shall owe thee.
But what adventure hath preferred you and brought you thus in grace?
We shall hereafter partake of that at large, but leaving this discourse, with our joint persuasions, let's strive to comfort him that's nothing but discomfort.
Would I had brought him news of that rare virtue, Yet you have never heard of our late shipwreck.
Clem reported it.
Oh, Clem, where's he?
He has got a service hard by and draws wine.
His master may well trust him with his maids, for, since the Bashaw has gelded him, he has learnt to run exceedingly nimbly.
Re-entered the merchant.
Ah, sir, 'tis to you, I take it, my message is directed. The Duke would have some conference with you, but it must be in private.
I am his servant, still at his command. Where shall us meet anon?
At Clem's,
Content.
where we'll make a due relation of all our desperate fortunes.
'Tis concluded.
And they exit. And thus ends Act 4, finally. Any thoughts? I mean, that was a long scene, but I'm guessing it was kind of like tying up loose ends and that kind of thing, which is basically what it seems like doing. Yeah, this is me vamping and sort of trying to come up with thoughts about this aside from what on earth they don't recognize. It's basically they're coming in at random times and basically meeting people at different stages of yeah. Any thoughts? No? Yes? Maybe? Emily.
I'm not dead. No one ever dies.
Yeah. Well,
Except the subtitle of the play.
Then
Except the early modern equivalent of the guys in the red shirts, like six of Fez's citizens, and there was other people killed, and
the captain of the banditos.
yeah. So yeah, and he's actually the only person in this play who has a line who's been killed. But like, yeah, there's a lot of offstage violence, and it's just like people without names. It's like they don't count, which I find a little troubling.
Well, this is the thing, right? So I have this theory that I'm working on, that characters are roles which can actually affect the plot. Chorus people are folks who exist. They might even have names, they might react and whatnot, but they cannot actually change the course of the plot. So you can always easily kill a chorus member, essentially, which is terrible, but true.
yeah, and also kind of
sort of
if
like
you
the
kill a
living version of scenery or something like that. There's
Yeah, well, that's what the red shirts are, right? They're
Yeah,
extra humans. They're very much NPCs, non-playable characters. and their job is to show you that there's danger.
I'm just wondering if this was written as a sort of D&D campaign, but like sort of back then rather than obviously, yeah. Because this is kind of the way it keeps going. Just, well, minus the dragons and, you know, fictional things. Like, I mean, I'm guessing like piracy would have been a real concern in the early modern period. So, and this is like about 100 years before the sort of golden age of piracy and stuff. So, well, I mean, yeah, I think I'm not entirely sure about my history there, but yeah, Helen.
Yeah, the Jack Sparrow piracy certainly is later, but if we're talking about just piracy in general, it had been going on for at least 100 years when this play was written. You know, I mean, anybody who wasn't currently required by their nation for a war tended to take to piracy if they were nautically minded.
Yeah, interesting. Alan.
I would have thought piracy in the Mediterranean probably been going on since time immemorial, or even the Trojan Wars.
Oh yeah, since seafaring, pirating has been going on since seafaring, like basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
So,
yeah, because Pompey the Great was the one who got rid of all the pirates in the Mediterranean. He had a massive campaign against them.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
And then
Caesar was allegedly captured by some at one point, wasn't he?
He was, and got them hanged later.
As one does.
As one does.
Yeah. I mean, if you can find them. Yeah. Any other thoughts on this play or sort of what it's doing? Because, yeah. Anyway, yeah, we've been talking about in the chat how come they don't recognize each other, but obviously it's for plot purposes. So I'm guessing, like, you know, Act 5 is going to be the big reveal, right? Act 5. Okay, yeah, Emily is waving. So
Just real quick regarding plot contrivances. Hank Azaria, I believe it is, who voices Homer Simpson, would come into table reads, and his question was, and I'm paraphrasing it because I've got a slightly different idea, but I think it's, okay, who's carrying the stupid ball today, was his phrase. With the idea, no, it is funny. The idea being that for plot forward things, as a character, you have to be aware of when you need to carry the stupid ball, which is, oh gosh, I just somehow don't recognize you. Oh gosh, I was sword fighting and now, bleh. Like, you have to justify the stupid ball, but that's part of your job as an actor, is knowing if you're the stupid ball carrier at that time.
yeah, and also kind of, we know the early modern disguises tend to work unless they're not kings or the main character of the play. Because, you know, they just kind of put on the glasses and magically Clark Kent and that kind of thing. Or
Daniel, do you want to correct me? Because no, I got who played Homer Simpson wrong as I was corrected by Daniel, but I'm positive it's Hank Azaria is the one who came up with the term stupid ball. So
yeah. And also we were wondering whether Clem actually had been castrated at the end of the last play. Apparently he has, which is kind of, yeah.
Well,
interesting.
I was never sure because about 16 years ago, it seems, I did the editing on this play, which is probably why it's such a mess, with Buffman instead of Ruffmans and stuff. And I could not make my mind up whether, in fact, he was just, he was calling himself a eunuch to make himself interesting.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not 100% certain he knows what a eunuch is.
Yeah, kind of like when he accepts the invitation and then realizes what it means, and then it's fine. Alan.
I think a good rule of thumb with anything that Clem says is a large pinch of salt.
Yeah, and probably a few shots of a few drinks, or not, or wine. Yeah.
But he's right about having a trade being something really useful.
Yeah.
My mother always used to tell me this. Never got me very far.
Well,
But no, I mean he's just dropped in to be an underskinker.
Yeah.
But you go to a
Anyway.
new country, and if you can be a barback, no matter what your visa or passport says, you get a job.
This is true. This is true. And especially useful for those of us or those of you rather, including viewers and readers alike who want to get PhDs. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, we should probably read like Act 5, right? And finish this play. Act 5, Scene 1. Enter the Duke of Florence and Spencer.
I cannot rest till I am fully resolved about this duel. Sir, we sent to stay you and wean you some small season from your friends, and you above the rest, because your presence doth promise good discourse.
Sir, I am all yours.
How long hath been your sojourn here in Florence?
2 days, no more.
Have you, since your arrival, retained no beauteous mistress? Pardon me, sir, that I am come thus near you.
On my soul, not any, royal sir.
Think it my love that I presume thus far to question you. Have you observed no lady of special note, courted or discoursed with any these 2 days?
Upon my honour, none.
You are a soldier and a gentleman, and should speak the truth.
If otherwise, I should disclaim my gentry.
I believe you, sir. You have a rich jewel here, worthy a prince's wearing. 'Twere not modesty to ask how you came by it, or from whom.
Nor can I, sir, resolve you if you did. But it was cast me by a lady of whom, as then I took small notice of, my mind being troubled.
'Tis even so.
Perhaps your grace, by knowing of this jewel, may know the beauteous Flinger, and so you might engage me deeply to acquaint me with her, to prove her grateful debtor.
No such thing. You know none in the city?
Worse than scorn or foul disgrace before me, if I know any you can call woman.
Be not moved. I spoke this but in sport. Sure, this strange lady, casting her eye upon this gentleman, grew straight of him enamored, which makes her keep off from my embraces. But I'll sound all, yet my own wrongs prevent. Sir, I stayed you, but to another purpose, to commit a weighty secret to you.
Were it of millions, I'd prove your faithful steward.
I have a mistress that I tender dearer than mine own eyes observe me, dear sir, whom neither courtship moves, favors can work, nor no preferment tempt.
How rich were he could call himself lord of such a jewel.
My entreaties, friends, persuasions, importunities of my chaste ladies cannot prevail at all. Now, would I choose a stranger, selecting thee, to bear to her these few lines, which contain the substance of my mind?
And sir, I shall.
In thy aspect, I read a fortune that should destine me to strange felicities. Wilt thou be faithful?
As to my soul.
But thou shalt swear before thou undertakest it, though I suspect not falsehood in thy visage, not once to cast on her an amorous look, speak to her no familiar syllable, nor to embrace her, nor kiss her hand, nor her free lip, by no means.
Well, I swear.
But that's not all. Swear by thy faith and thy religion not to taste the least small favor for thyself. Touch or come near her bosom, for, fair stranger, I love her above measure, and that love makes me thus jealous.
By my honesty, faith, and religion, without free release from your own lips, all this will I perform.
And so return the richest Englishman that ever pierced our dukedom. Instantly thou shalt about thy task.
And they exit. So basically Florence, because I missed part of that, although I was listening, but also confused as always. So basically Florence has told Spencer to woo Bess on his behalf, I'm guessing,
Yeah.
because they speak the same language and stuff, I'm guessing. Or just sort of, I don't know, is there a particular reason aside from the fact that sort of, aside from the fact that he's English?
I don't know
Sarah,
if
sorry,
I
yeah.
need an excuse. Yeah.
I think he knows. Well, he's guessed
yeah.
at least that because they had the chat about, you know, she had this love, etc., etc. I think he's putting 2 and 2 together, which is more than anyone else is doing in this place. So good on him, frankly. But I think he's maybe guessed that this could be the lost love, and he's testing them. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe he's not being that dastardly.
Yeah, I totally agree that, yeah, he knows that she's either attracted to him or she's the person that he's told her that she's told him. Bess has told Florence the story, so he knows that they're a couple. So he's kind of saying, you woo on my behalf, but you can't kiss her, you can't touch her, you can't woo her, kind of to torture them.
Yeah, because it's kind of speak to her no familiar syllable, but then
yeah.
So how can he?
Yeah,
how can he woo without
Yeah.
speaking as familiar syllable? I don't know. It's kind of a
Well,
contradiction.
he's given her a letter. These few lines, he's given her a paper.
Okay. True.
So like, give her this, you know, speak my love to her, but don't woo for yourself. Promise me you won't have intimate conversation with her on your own behalf, because he knows that that there's a relationship there, and he's testing them. He's just kind of sadistic, dramatic irony, something like that.
True. Sarah has thoughts on this.
I don't tend to care about these kinds of things terribly much, but it does strike me that there's an interesting thing going on here in these plays with regards to nationalism. You know, might be something that somebody more academic than I wants to look into, because in the first part, Bess's beauty and her goodness was seen very much as something, it became like a test. And various local Cornish layabouts, you know, after being tested by Bess, were inspired by her goodness and her beauty and blah, 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 to become better men themselves. And that's something that we talked about. And it seems to me that ever since she went off a pirating, and she keeps encountering all these foreign rulers, the reverse is happening. You know, because the King of Fez, he started out, he was an all right bloke, really. And then all of a sudden, you know, he's overcome. You know, he's immediately charmed by her, but he's like, oh yeah, no, you marry your Spencer. And then all of a sudden he's overcome with the idea of he must have her. And all these nefarious, wicked plots are put in motion. And then here you have what appears to be not quite such a dramatic thing, but a similar thing, in that you've got the Duke who, is just basically he's being sadistic towards Spencer because he wants best for himself. I mean, that's why he's doing it. He's not doing it because, here are two random English people, let's torture them. He's doing it because he wants to get into bed with Bess himself. And so I think there's maybe something interesting and from a contemporary perspective, slightly nefarious going on about the effects of a woman's virtue and beauty upon Englishmen as opposed to, you know, foreigners. It just seems that there's something going on there that somebody more academic than myself might want to look into, because it's I mean, to me it seems to be there, and maybe it was one of the things that made the play popular. I don't know.
Lynn and Kyle.
Yeah, I want to sort of meditate on that a little further. I think Sarah's really onto something here. I want to point out that even though Fez, goes rogue and is a horrible person, she converts him in the end. The Spencers and her virtue and their promise keeping and they're sticking to their principles. In the end, Fez is like, wow, you're better people than I am. I'm going to try to be more like you. Go, you're free. So
not just her though, is it? It's all of them. It's like the it's all of them together. But then they're all converted by her in the first place. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So so I think that sort of English national virtue and uprightness. I think that's a really great insight. That's part of this is jingoistic. And my guess is, we'll see if I'm right, is that the same thing will happen with Florence. He's kind of testing them. They will pass. He will let them be together. And I mean, of course, it's sort of like this is a forehead slapping moment. Of course, there's this sort of not particularly heavily disguised nationalistic theme. The heroine's name is Elizabeth. And even though this is a Jacobean play, the elevation and the sort of almost deification of the recently dead monarch was something James highly approved of because it reflected well on the monarchy as an institution. So he actually was really into the glorification of his predecessor. He approved of that. So even though she's dead, Elizabethan arslicking is still a thing, and James encouraged it.
True.
James's daughter was called Elizabeth.
Indeed.
Became Queen of Bohemia, unfortunately.
Yeah. It was with mother to the final two Stuart kings, right? Queens, right? Anne and No.
She was mother to Rupert and Morris, Rupert of the Rhine, and Morris.
And Kyle, and we should move on. Sorry, because we are running short.
Yeah, I was just thinking about what Sarah said, and having read a lot of Turk plays and taught them, and thought about them a lot. It seems like there is a real consistency about representing Islamic leaders as being completely susceptible to women, and then being very driven by their appetites and weak because of it. And I saw that as a kind of feminizing of them, and then juxtaposing them with like Elizabeth and the chastity. I think in the last one anyway really emphasized that. So it's, I just think it's interesting that you see that.
You have a point. Act 5, Scene 2 then, because we have to move on. Enter Bess and the merchant. You have tired our ears with your long discourse. Leave us to rest.
Dream in your best desires.
If at some half hour you visit us, I shall be free for language.
Soft rest with you.
The merchant exits. If my soft sleep presents me any shadow, oh, let it be my Spencer's, him whom waking I cannot see. I may in dreams perhaps converse with. My sudden bleeding and my drowsiness should not press to me good. Pray heaven the Duke prove loyal to mine honor. Howsoever death will end all, and I presume on this, 'tis wait Spencer in my haven of bliss. And she lies to sleep, and indeed enters Spencer.
What beauty should this be, on whom the Duke is grown so jealous? Sure, 'tis some rare piece. He told me she was fairer than I could either judge or yet imagine. Would Bess were here to wager beauties with her for all my hopes in England. This is the chamber. Thus far off she seems to promise well. I'll take a nearer and more free survey. This taper shall assist me. Fail my eyes! Or meet I nothing else but prodigies? Oh, heavens! It is my Bess! Oh, sudden rapture! Let me retire to more considerate thoughts. What should I think but presently to wake her? And being mine to seize her where I find her. Oh, but mine oath! that I should never, never lie with her, being my wife, nor kiss her, touch her, speak to her one familiar syllable. Can oaths bind thus? My honesty, faith, and religion are all engaged. There's no dispense for them. And yet, in all this conflict, to remember how the Duke praised her virtue, chastity, and constancy, whom nothing could corrupt, adds to my joys. But on the neck of this, it lays a double torture on my life. First to forswear, and then to leave so fair a wife.
She starts. I'm all distraction. In my sleep I saw him. Could I but behold him waking, that were heaven. Do I dream still, or was I born to see nothing but strange illusions? Spencer, love.
I am neither.
Thou hast his shape, his gait, his face, his language. Only these words of thine and strange behavior never came from him. Let me embrace thee.
No.
Then kiss me.
No.
Yet speak me fair.
I cannot.
Look on me.
I must not. I will not. Fare thee well. Yet, first read that.
I have read too much already within thy change of looks.
Oh, me, my oath. I'd chop off this right hand to cancel it.
But if not now, when then?
Never?
Not kiss me?
Nope.
Nor fold thee in mine arms? In thine
Not.
arms? Wait, that doesn't make sense. Nor cast a gracious look upon thy best?
I dare not.
Never?
No, never.
Oh, I shall die. And she swoons.
Oh, she faints. And yet I dare not, for my oath wants to support her. Dies before mine eyes, and yet I must not call her back to life. Where is the Duke? Some help. No ladies nigh. Are you all asleep or dead? There's no more noise in court.
Enter the Duke and his train.
Hi. How? What's the business? Noble friends, what news? How speed you with my mistress?
You may see there on the ground, half in the grave already. So fare you well. What grief mine is, those that love best could tell.
Is it
Support her.
Spencer? I think. Yeah. I guess it's
Yeah.
Spencer.
In a huff, I guess. Support her, speak love, look up, divinest mistress.
You said would not speak, nor look, nor touch your best.
Who I? By all my hopes, I ne'er had such a thought.
Oh, I mistook.
Why do you look so ghastly about the room? Whom do your eyes inquire for?
Nothing, nay, nobody.
Why do you weep?
Hath some new love possessed him and excluded me from his bosom? Can it be possible?
All leave the chamber.
But I'll be so revenged as never woman was. I'll be a precedent to all wives hereafter, how to pay home their proud, neglectful husbands. 'Tis in my way. I have power, and I'll do it.
What is it offends you?
'Tis you have done it.
We?
If you be the princess, but one man I hate above all the world, and you have sent him to torment me here.
What satisfaction can I make for it?
This and this only. If you have any interest in him or power above him, if you be a prince in your own country, have command and rule in your own dominions, freely resign his person and his estate solely to my disposure.
But whence grows the ground of such inveterate hate?
All circumstances to omit, he and only he ravished me from my country. He was the cause of all my afflictions, tempests, shipwreck, fears. I never had just cause of care or grief, but he was the author of it. Speak, is he mine?
What interest I can claim, either by oath or promise, thou art commanderess of it.
Then I'm yours, and tomorrow in the public view of all the stranger princes, courtiers, and ladies, I will express myself. This night, I entreat I may repose myself in mine own lodging for private meditation.
What we have promised is in our purpose most irrevocable, and so we hope is yours.
You may presume, my lord, and enter a merchant.
Conduct this lady to her chamber. Let her have all observance. We will lay our strict command on him, lest he should leave our city before our summons. 'Tis tomorrow, then. Shall happy thee, make us most blessed of men.
Exit the Duke. Now shall I quit him home? The ingrate shall know 'tis above patience to be injured so.
Will you walk, lady, or take your coach?
That we the streets more freely may survey will walk along. And they exit. What can you say to this? It's kind of infuriating but hilarious, but also we need to move on. So we should probably get to the end of the play and then so Act 5, Scene 3. Sorry to speed you along. Enter Clem with his pots.
Let me see, 3 quarts, 2 bottles, 1 gallon, and a pint. 1 pint, 2 quarts more. Then I have my load. Thus are we that are under journeymen put to it. Oh, the fortune of the sea! Never did man that marries a whore so cast himself away as I had been, like in the last tempest. Yet nothing vexes me so much that after all my travels, no man that meets me but may say, and say very truly, I am now no better than a pot companion.
Enter Bess and a merchant. That should be Clem, my man. Give me some gold. Here, sirrah, drink of this to the health of thy old mistress. Usher on, we have more serious things to think upon. Thus exits Bess and the merchant.
Mistress Bess, Mistress Elizabeth, 'tis she. Ha, gold, hence pewter pots. I'll be a pewter potter no longer. My mistress turned gallant, and shall I do nothing but run upstairs and downstairs with a nun, sir? No, I have gold, and a nun will be as gallant as the proudest of them. Shall I stand at the bar to bar any man's casting that drinks hard? No, I'll send these pots home by some porter or other, put myself into a better habit, and say the case is altered. Then will I go home to the bush, where I drew wine, and buy out my time, and take up my chamber, be served in pomp by my fellow prentices. I will presently thither, where I will flaunt it in my cups and feather.
And he exits presumably, and Act 5, Scene 4, because we want to speed through. Enter Good Luck, Spencer, and Ruffman.
You tell us of the strangest wonderment that ever came within the compass of my knowledge.
I tell you but what's true.
It cannot find example. Did you leave her in those extremities of passion?
I think dying, or the next way to death.
To cheer you, the Duke's own witness of her constancy and virtue, armed against all temptations, part of your griefs should lessen.
Rather, friend, augment my passions, to be forced to lose and quite abjure so sweet a bedfellow. Oh, it breeds more distraction.
Were it my cause, I'd to the Duke and claim her, beg for justice, and through the populous court clamour my wrongs if he detain her from you.
But my oath ties me from that. I have quite abjured her. I have renounced her freely, cast her off, disclaimed her quite. I can no more interest claim in her than good lack thou, or Ruffman thou.
'Tis most strange. Let's examine all our brains, how this may be avoided.
How now, Clem, you loiter here? The house is full of guests, and you are extremely called for.
You are deceived, my lieutenant. I'll assure you. You speak to as good a man as yourself. Do you want any money?
Canst thou lend me any?
I am lord of these mines of these Indies.
How camest thou by them?
A delicate, sweet lady, meeting me in the street like an ass groaning under my heavy burthen, and being enamored of my good parts, gave me this gold. If you think I lie, examine all these pots, whose mouth, if they could speak, would say as much in my behalf. But if you want any money, speak in time, for I have once turned courtier again, and I will scorn my poor friends, look scurvily upon my acquaintances, borrow of all men, be beholding to any man, and acknowledge no man. And my motto shall be, base is the man that pays.
But Clem, how camest thou by this gold?
News, though not the lost sheep, yet the lost shrew is found, my mistress. Mistress Elizabeth, 'tis she. She, meeting me in the street, seeing I had a pot or two too much, gave me £10 in a purse to pay for it. ex signum.
Enter a lord.
The Duke hath summoned your appearance, gentlemen, and lays his power of love, not of command, to visit him in court.
I am put into the number too. If he be a tall man, tell him we will attend his highness.
Hello, my language was not aimed at you.
But, sir, I'll make bold to come at first bidding.
Sir, your reward stays for you at court for bringing of the outlawed captain's head. There's order obtained for it from the treasury.
The Duke is just and royal. We'll attend you.
And I'll go furnish myself with some better accoutrements, and I'll be with you to bring presently.
Enter Florence, Mantua, and Ferrara.
There is not in your looks, renowned Florence, that summer's calm and sweet alacrity that was wont there to shine. A winter storm sits threatening on your discontented brow. May we desire the cause?
Which you shall know, princes. The fierce and bloody Moors have late committed outrage on our seas, especially one mighty pasha, against whom we have sent Pietro de Venturo, one of our best sea captains. Until we hear of his success, we are barred of much content.
My lord, good news. Pietro di Venturo is returned with happy victory and many noble prisoners, and humbly lays his conquest at your feet.
Enter Pietro with Bashaw Joffer.
Pietro, welcome. This thy service shall not die unrewarded. Freely relate the manner of thy sea fights.
Then thus, great Duke, this noble Bashaw, noble I must call him, for he deserves that worthy attribute, did lord our seas, appointed well, laden with many a rich and golden spoil, not weak to us in number, being in ken. We had him and his galleys straight in chase. He ne'er set sail or fled. Afar our ordnance played. Coming more near, our muskets and our small shot, like showers of hail, began the slaughter. There this Bashaw, then perceiving straight that he must either yield or die, his scimitar he pointed to his breast, thinking thereon to perish, had not my coming stayed him.
Don't think, bold Christian, that I can command or thank thee for it. For whose that's noble will not prize brave death before slavish bondage. Had I died by my own hand, that had been a soldier's pride.
Although a prisoner, captive, and a Moor, yet use him like the noblest of his nation, and now withdraw with him till we determine of his ransom.
Exits Pietro and Joffer. Act 5, Scene 5. Enter Merchant and Bess and Spencer and Ruffman and Goodlack.
Way there for the Duke's mistress.
The Duke's mistress, said he.
It was harsh.
Keep off, we would have no rubs such as these trouble our way, but then have them swept aside, a company of base companions, to do no reverence to a prince's mistress.
That.
Give back, you trouble the presence.
This cannot be best, but some fury hath stolen her shape.
It seems strange.
Unto me most horrid.
Great Duke, I come to keep my promise with you, if you keep your word with me.
These kind regreets are unto me more welcome than my late victory got at sea. Will it please you, take your seat?
Is not yon Spencer, and that the captain of the Negro?
Shall we next behold?
Yet are you mine?
From all the world, great Florence, witness this, you ne'er had yet a voluntary kiss.
Foot, I could dare tear my hair off.
Second your kindness. Let these princes see your tempting lips solely belong to me.
There's one again, it surfeits me above measure to be a prince's darling and choice treasure.
Hold me, Goodlack, or I shall break out into some dangerous outrage.
Go this in your wisdom, and quite suppress your fury.
Princes, I fear you have mistook yourselves in these two strangers, for I have little hope to find them worthy of your great character.
There must be great presumption that must force belief to that.
Nay, more than presumptions, proofs, or they will win small credit.
You had from us, lady, a costly jewel. It cost 10,000 crowns. Speak, can you show it?
I kept it cherry as mine own heart because it came from you, but hurrying through the street, some cheating fellow snatched it from my arm. Therefore my suit is with whomsoever the jewel may be found. The slave may die.
His sentence thine. We never will revoke it. Our merchant, search all the courtiers and such strangers as are within our court.
Here's one of no mean lustre that this gentleman wears in his hat.
Reach it, the lady.
This cannot be Bess Bridges, but some Medusa changed into her lively portraiture.
Princess, the thief is found, whate'er he be that's guilty of this felony. I beg that I may be his sentencer.
Thou shalt.
If you have any interest in his blood, his oaths or vows, freely resign them, him and all at my dispose.
Have we not done it?
Who can, with the least honor, speak for him, the theft being so apparent?
Now, if she should challenge me with the purse she gave me and hang me up for my labor, I should curse the time that ere I was a courtier.
Let me descend, and ere I judge the felon, survey him first. 'Tis pity, for it seems he hath an honest face. The word was never.
What, Bess, forget yourself?
An indifferent proper man, and take these courses. You said you would not speak, nor look upon, nor touch your Bess.
And you sin on and betray a second Troy rather than suffer this.
Good outward parts, but in a foreign clime. Shame your own country. Never think of that.
I fear my heart will break. It doth so struggle for eruption forth.
When do you speak his sentence, lady?
You'll confirm it, whate'er it be.
As we are prince, we will.
Set forth the prisoner.
Stand forward, Englishman.
Then hear thy doom. I give thee back thy life, and in thy arms throw a most constant wife. If thou hast rashly sworn, thy oaths are free. Thou art mine by gift. I give myself.
Lady, we understand not this.
Shall I make it plain? This is the great Duke, my husband, whose virtues even the barbarous Moors admired. This the man for whom 1,000 dangers I've endured, of whom the best approved chroniclers might write a golden legend.
My lord, I know that gentleman for Spencer and her husband, for mine eyes saw them espoused in Fez. That gentleman, as I take it, was captain of the Negro, the other his lieutenant.
And do not you know me?
Not I, sir.
I am Basha of Barbary. By the same token, I sold certain precious stones to purchase the place.
Lady, you told us he was the author of all your troubles, cares, and fears.
I told true, his love was cause of all. It drew me from my country in his quest, when I despaired in finding him in Fez. Oh, do but think, great Duke, if e'er you loved, what might have bought him from you. Had my Spencer been in Eurydice, I would have played the Orpheus and found him out in hell.
We now perceive the cause of all these errors, his unkindness grounded on his rash oath, which we release. And all those virtues, honors, and renowns which even barbarous Moors seem to admire, we dignify and raise their suffrage higher.
Florence is honorable.
So this is indicated as Joffa, but it's actually Florence, this line.
That's unfortunate. Bring in the bashaw. Call Venturo forth.
Indeed, enter Pietro and Doffer.
Duke, I am prisoner. Put me to ransom or to death, but to death rather, for methinks a soldier should not outlive bondage.
Sir Joffa, leave my embraces, Bess, for I have forced him cast into his arms, my noble friend.
I know you not, and could wish you did not know me. No, now I am prisoner, a wretch, a captive, and such a one as I would not have my friends to know. I pray stand off.
As you are endurance, should I not know you? No. For then the noblest minds should friends best know. Have you forgot me, sir?
No, were I in freedom and my princely honors, I should then be proud to call you Spencer and my friend. But now,
English virtue thou shalt try, but for my life once didst not fear to die, that for his noble office done to me, embrace him best, dear good lack, and the rest. Whilst to this prince I kneel, this was the Bashaw, King Mullisheg, made him great viceroy of Algiers. I know not, prince, how he is fallen so low, but if myself, my friends, and all my fortunes may redeem him home, unto my naked skin I'll sell myself. And if my wealth will not amount so much, I'll leave myself in hostage.
'Tis the part of a most noble friend. And in these times, worthy admiration.
I wonder not the more so grace this nation, if all the English equal their virtues, for this brave stranger, so endeared to thee, pass to thy country, ransomless and free.
Royal in all things, the Duke of Florence.
Princes, these unexpected novelties shall add unto the high solemnity of your
Wait, 1 second. The Duke of Florence, we have to go back a bit.
I've got something I want to say first. It's such honor is not found in Barbary. The virtue in these Christians hath converted me, which to the world I can no longer smother. Accept me then, a Christian and a brother.
Princes, now, these unexpected novelties shall add unto the high solemnity of your best welcome. Worthy Englishmen, and you, the mirror of your sex and nation, fair English Elizabeth. As well your virtue as your admired beauty will give you cause, ere you depart our court, to say great Fez was either poor or else not bountiful. Bashaw will honor your conversion with all due rights, but for yon beauteous lady, thus much in your behalf, we do proclaim the fairest maid ne'er patterned in her life, so fair a virgin, and so chaste a wife.
And thus entereth the epilogue.
Still the more glorious that the creatures be, they in their native goodness are more free to things below them. As the sun we find impartially to shine on all mankind, denying light to none. And you we may, great King, most justly call our light, our day, whose glorious course may never be quite run, while earth hath sovereign, or the heaven a sun.
Way, thus endeth the play. Well, that feels like a lot done. Okay, so now that we've actually ended the play, for those who were here and not here and whatever, feel free. That's an interesting one. Feel free to jump in for final thoughts or not, or whatever. Helen.
I feel that Clem ought to come on in his new clothes at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we would be deprived of something if Clem didn't come on, got up regardless.
Yeah, definitely. Sarah.
I would just like to put in a word for myself, Alan, Lynn, and yourself, Eric, the four of us who have staggered through the entirety of this play. It started so well. It all went to pot in the middle two sessions. And then today it just, well, it was kind of entertaining, actually. It kind of pulled it back in a ridiculously crazy, fun, silly way. But the thing I wanted to say, and I'm just going to say it quickly because then I need to switch my camera off and go and do some arm exercises, is I said at the end of the first part that I was really interested in finding a way to get this on stage for a modern audience. That you know, because the thing is, it's not like, you know, most early modern dramas, there's something you've got to cut out of them for a modern audience. With this, there are whole sections of plot, and I was saying that maybe you could cut the final couple of scenes of the first part and then end it on the ship when she first sees Spencer. Actually, there is enough material in this second part of the second part. The bit yesterday was a horror show, and I wouldn't even touch it with a barge pole. But there's enough material in what we've done today. I think I would be interested in cutting some of this out, sewing it to what we did in the first part of the first part, and the beginning of the second part of the first part, and sort of stitching it together, because I think there is a play that actually audiences would love. It's such a hoot, you know. It's pirates, and it's a ship, you know, being run by a woman, and there's dueling, and there's, you know, all kinds of shenanigans, as you've been saying in the chat, and I think it's really silly, but none the worse for that. It's a shame in a way, because it started off so well. The first scenes, the first few scenes of part one are just so brilliant. It could have been an amazing play. I don't think it's going to be an amazing play, but I think it could be a really fun play that an audience would really enjoy, and could still to this day be massively popular. So I'd be really interested in terms of getting it on stage now, doing a bit of a job on it, and sewing some pieces of it together to make it work. And that's all I have to say about that, because yesterday was I'm still traumatized from yesterday. Anyway, that was my final thought.
Alan and Lynn, I think.
Yeah, I'd go with a lot of what Sarah suggested there, but my other thought on it was, by the time you've discarded the last third maybe of the first play and the first half of this play, to try and stitch it back together again would seem to me to be one hell of a lot of work.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure that would be time well spent.
Lynn, I think Lynn had a thought, then Emily, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of agree with Sarah, but usually I'm a fan of a happy ending. As cynical a person as I am, that might be surprising, but I can forgive a lot if a lot of coincidence and contrivedness and manipulation if it ends the way I want it to end. I really love a happy ending, but this, it's partly because of yesterday. And you know, the Bess is turning into such a damp rag, and the xenophobia and the racism. It's just, I have not been able to get back on board with this and buy into the game of everything's going to work out in the end. So I have found today kind of tedious and unsatisfying. I don't think Sarah's wrong that it could be done. It's just, yeah, the taste left in my mouth from yesterday's session and the end of the week last week, something to overcome if I were going to edit this.
Emily, jump in.
Oh, just briefly, and again, speaking as someone who writes and then develops other people writing new verse plays, I think though, of all the plays I've done with Beyond Shakespeare, this was one of the first ones that I was taking down notes in terms of, again, that salvage idea. Ooh, that's a fun thing. That's a trope I haven't seen that much. Oh, this would be lovely to sort of steal and use, and therefore you can not worry about having to cut around Bess being a damp rag, because you can, or the xenophobia, or the this da, 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 da. But like that scene of him saying, "No, I won't even talk to you," and then her going, "I'm going to be revenged on my husband." It was just so ridiculous that it's like, this needs to be in a better play. It had a bit, in some ways, to me, especially towards the end, although I don't think this was the case. But reminded me of a couple plays that I've read where people have great ideas for other plays that they've never found a home for, sort of skits, right? SNL skits that they just kind of throw then into the play they're writing, which is why I think this idea of what can you salvage is coming up, because there are some lovely skits in here that don't necessarily stitch together well in this version, but which are worth examining and would be lovely to see on stage on their own.
Yeah, Dan, I think, or no? Did I misread that? Sorry.
I'll just say what I said in the chat, that I had compared part 1 to Thor Ragnarok and part 2 to Love and Thunder. I enjoyed them both. Ragnarok was a classic. Love and Thunder had a lot of good bits. The director Taika Waititi is a genius. I think Heywood is a genius. So you're always going to have some good bits in it. However, there's a lot that didn't work for me in this play, but with some good actors and a great director, you could still have a lot of fun with this. I feel like this play, it likely was the case that, we know that it's the case, in fact, that this play was written far after the first one was staged, likely because of demand for another play on this. So staged again, it was remounted with Queen Henrietta's Men. It was first staged with Queen Anne's Men in, I forgot what year. But yeah. So, right. Well, regardless, the fact is that it seemed to me that they wanted to have another one. I applaud the idea of trying to do something different with the sequel. Doesn't always work, but good effort. And with the same company, and we know it was the same company of actors because Heywood actually put it in the printing at the beginning, which actors were playing what roles, and they resumed them in part 2, which is great. Lots of potential for it in it.
Helen, who hasn't spoken, then Emily, sorry.
I'm sure you're right that somewhere it says that they're all the same. I can't have believed that Bess was played by the same actor, because the boy who played Bess would have grown up. And I think this may be one of the explanations that it's a completely different boy.
Well, from the original staging, it's a completely different boy from the early 1600s. But then, and for the second one, for the remount, it was with the same company, and supposedly it was the same boy who played them both there.
So they restaged it.
Right.
Right.
Because it was Queen Anne's Men at first, and then Queen Henrietta's Men in the revival.
Because 20 years is far too long for a boy to carry the role. But I mean that if there is this big change in Bess, then I think that's probably a very good explanation for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I still try to play boy roles 20 years later, but.
Well, yeah, sure.
I mean, I get female roles. No, yeah, I'm kidding. I get to host this and see what happens there. Emily, then Alan, I think.
Actually, yeah, this dovetails beautifully off of that, because I just want to mention, with the 20 years later, and also some thoughts like Ruffman, for example, is doing a lot less rough housing. Perhaps that actor sustained an injury 20 years later, is just older and arthritis, so I'm going to go off and talk about fighting. I'm not going to necessarily do the beating scene. Same thing with Bess. But would also just like to point out that we do have several examples of playwrights writing the same character decade or two later and having, maybe it's not difficulty, but they themselves are a different person. And so they're writing differently, which will be compounded if you're writing for someone where you remember their performance from 20 years ago and then you're watching their rehearsal now. But I'm thinking particularly of Richard Hovey in his tragedy of Guinevere. Guinevere and Lancelot are so beautifully and richly drawn out, but then he writes The Birth of Galahad about 15 years later. And the two characters are unrecognizable from their first venture out. And if you look at his life, it's because in his life, he himself had changed. There had been things happening. And so I'd be curious what else happened in the playwright's life. And again, the question of, was this a commission? Is he writing this sort of reluctantly? These things happen, and it's really interesting to see any playwright at any time try to continue on characters. It's very difficult.
To be fair, with Heywood, we've seen, I mean, because we keep mentioning this, like, I mean, at least I do, with like the age plays where he's got sort of stuff like, okay, maybe not the through line, but he's determined to do the entire Hellenistic period of plays. And he's
the other thing that we've found is, people, this epic style, even to playwrights who are working now, lends itself to people doing, multi-part things, essentially limited series. And I'd be interested, again, I haven't read the other ones, but what I found is that if you're working on it sort of intensely, even over the course of like 15 years, but sort of like consistently, then you can keep a consistency of character. In the same way, I'm thinking Firefly versus Serenity. You can kind of feel that there was a dip between the Firefly series and the movie. And you kind of lose some of the specificity of writing for a character if you have a break in between. So I don't know if Heywood wrote his Hellenistic tightly, and that would help him keep a consistency of character.
Well, consistency is kind of not so much the thing that we worried about. It was more, we had a rape scene and then comedy and then rape and then what the fuck is going on in this play? But it was more, language, I know. But we had like sort of the same episodic nature that we had here, but different, obviously, because of different subject matter. I think Helen had thought, and I think also I saw Sarah pop up at some point.
No, it's Sarah, not me. I was sort of waving at Sarah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. Sarah has thoughts, more thoughts.
Thank you, Helen. Yes, I just wanted to add something to this conversation, specifically what Emily was saying about how people change. Writers change over the course of 20 years. I mean, absolutely, they do. But also audiences change. And another quite interesting line of inquiry, I don't know how fruitful it would be from an academic perspective, but the other thing that strikes me about this is, 20 years. I'm thinking back now to, we're in 2022. I'm thinking back to 2002. And I'm thinking about what the cultural landscape was like in my country of where I was living at the time, which was the UK. And it was absolutely swamped with what were charmingly known as lads mags back then. It was the loaded era. It was the era of girls in bikinis, and every female pop star hardly wore any clothes, and everything was heavily sexualized. And we were in the midst of a massive feminist backlash, which had occurred as a result of the sort of feminist sort of second, third wave in the 80s. There was a massive backlash going on. We're now in the middle of a backlash against that backlash. Feminism is on the rise again. There's a new wave. There's a new generation of young feminists coming up. Things have moved forward in what I personally perceive to in a very good way. I don't think there's a single lads mag left on any of the shelves. All the titles that have survived that were sort of going that way, like GQ, have kind of pulled themselves back and turned themselves into different publications. The cultural landscape has shifted completely in 20 years. And it occurs to me, okay, perhaps the cultural landscape did not shift so dramatically because there was less media back then, but nevertheless, it occurs to me that the Bess who was popular in like 1600, or whenever the first part of this was written, perhaps would not find an audience, or would not be greeted with the same kind of approval by the audience in 1620. The death of Elizabeth, change of monarch, change of cultural shift. It could have maybe they wanted a swooning heroine, you know, by the 1620s, and they weren't so bothered about having a swooning heroine in the 1600s. I have no idea how you could prove that, or whether you'd even want to prove it, but it just struck me as something off the back of what Emily was saying. 20 years is a long time. Writers change, but yeah, so does the culture.
I think you prove it by looking at the tropes that are in the popular plays every 5 years.
Lynn had thoughts, and then
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely. I mean, I think that's super smart insight. That closer to the end of Elizabeth's reign, whether it was right before or right after, sort of slightly androgynous, very self-motivated heroine with a lot of agency was something that seemed culturally appropriate and something that would have pleased the reigning monarch at the time. But by now it's been a masculine run court for a quarter of a century. James had 2 sons. The elder son unfortunately died before he could take over, but it was obviously a male succession. It was sausage all the way down. Because people couldn't foresee that the male kings wouldn't work out so good. But you know, even if he had an heir and a spare, so it was much more male-dominated court, and this idea that of female agency was much less necessary to promote. So we can go back to the swooning heroine whose main virtue was that she was loyal to her husband. So yeah, I think that's absolutely a great argument. It's cultural shift as well.
But also she has the reversal at the end where you think she's going to go, you know, sort of
betray him, but she doesn't.
Yeah.
And Kyle, sorry.
Yeah, I totally agree. The kind of chaste, silent, and obedient is back in spades. Okay. But also I was thinking about race because like right now I'm doing a lot of work in Elizabethan stuff, and so and I just discovered her being very opposed to kind of racist representations of the Spanish, and because she was worried about them finding out that she was mocking them in the theater, and I thought that was really interesting. But whereas like Anne, who this would be the period of, was so intrigued by race in a really kind of strange way, right? I mean, like this is the era of the Mask of Blackness and that sort of stuff,
in a sort
right?
of fetishistic way,
yeah,
Well,
in a kind of fetishistic, yeah. And this is high trade times, and all that negativity.
Well, according to the Wikipedia article that I read about 5 lines of, to be honest, because I didn't have the time and stuff, like this was written, like part 1 was written during the Anglo-Spanish Wars. So in the Caribbean and stuff, that hence all the sort of anti-Spanish sentiment. And I'm guessing it's always fun to bash the Spanish as well in England. And like,
Elizabeth was doing that, I think, again, or they were doing it again, I think, after this moment of tension that she was worried about.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's
and on that note, I should probably let you people go and enjoy your afternoon and probably other things. I'd like to thank the wonderful readers for their wonderful reading, and I drop off this right hand to cancel it.